Trump just unlocked this $9 trillion market. Also, you can retire on Bitcoin quicker. But what does this mean for MicroStrategy, as many people previously were buying into MSTR for some exposure in tax advantage accounts? We're going to get into all of this first, but we need to dive in to the big news out of the White House and Donald Trump here, as he has now allowed U.S. retirement accounts and prepared an executive order to allow 401k plans to tap into cryptocurrencies. Now, this is a $9 trillion market, all going straight into Bitcoin, or at least potentially. And if you guys know the previous videos that I've done on the Bitcoin multiplier effect, that every single dollar going into Bitcoin, well, that is an 8 to maybe even 25 times multiplier effect. So these $9 trillion could drastically change the landscape of Bitcoin and potentially make it the largest asset on the planet. Currently, we have it sitting at number 6. And granted, on the day, it sometimes is passing Amazon, sometimes is not, just dependent on the price. And so with this, now Bitcoin allowing potentially in these retirement accounts, it could skyrocket in flight all the way past gold and become the largest asset on the world. And it's absolutely astronomical, because signing this executive order as soon as this week to open up 401k plans beyond just the traditional stocks and bonds, according to 3 people who have been briefed by the president's plans, these investments would run a broad spectrum of classes, from digital assets to metals and funds on corporate takeovers, private loans, and infrastructure deals. So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of videos, a lot of talking heads. In fact, I've even made one on how much Bitcoin do you need to retire? And it's always been a big talking point. And so if you see the richest or the most expensive places in the world, Monaco, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Iceland, the US, how much Bitcoin you need to retire, these analysts are looking at it based on if it's in the selected countries by 2035. Some of those even being lower than 0.01 Bitcoin in the next 10 years. So the significance of this, I think, is drastic, because the United States has a huge retirement issue. So every single aspect of Bitcoin and all of these different asset classes is being overtaken by Bitcoin. So it's not only the retirement accounts that Bitcoin is taking over, it's the bond market, it's going to be the real estate market. It is all of these different markets traditionally, which have been looked at as safe haven assets. Now they're being unlocked towards Bitcoin. And so I think it's interesting that the way that we're seeing the transformation of the financialization of Bitcoin, because I think Trump eyeing this executive order to allow crypto, gold, and private equity into 401k retirement plans is very interesting. Previously, we just had them in IRA accounts. You had to go into self-directed IRA accounts. I know Unchained has one and some other great companies have one, but it wasn't very mainstream and it's very difficult, right? A lot of people don't really trust these companies like an Unchained or anything else, because they're just simply new. They're newer, not as much as around as other things. Obviously, I've got great friends over at Unchained, and I think they're one of the best companies in the Bitcoin space. So they offer massive, massive amounts of great products in the Bitcoin space. Couldn't recommend them enough. But the unique thing is they're just simply, not as mainstream. People don't have them set up in their 401k plans straight through their company, like a Fidelity, JP Morgan Chase, a T. Rowe Price, all of these big giant investment accounts. Well, now you can. And I think that is a big giant movement here because of the total value of just retirement assets, right? Not just 401k plans. The US has $43 trillion worth of retirement accounts. So that is not only just the 401k plans, But these are employer-sponsored plans, 401k, 403bs. That's 12.2 trillion. Then we got IRAs. That's 16.8 trillion. Then we have total retirement accounts. When you look at all the assets reached, that's $43 trillion. So now 34% of all of that, of all financial assets at the end of the first quarter of this year, 34% of all Americans' net worth is tied up in their retirement accounts currently. So if you have cash in those retirement accounts, the S&P 500 even, well, now you could have some exposure towards Bitcoin. And even if they just moved 1 percentage point or 2 percentage points into Bitcoin, that would drastically change the date of their retirement and change their amount of their retirement here. And, you know, I always talk about how much Bitcoin you need to retire. A lot of other people do as well. But the interesting aspect of all of it is, you know, these different calculators just show how quickly things can move. So, you know, we've had Michael Saylor come out and say, hey, you know what? If I'm 30 years old, I expect to live to 86 average expectancy. I have 0.01 Bitcoin with 21% annual growth. That's Michael Saylor's estimate, folks. And we get the low inflation of just 2%. Well, hey, I'll be retired at 68, which is basically close to the average retirement age right now. So even with just $1,200 worth of Bitcoin right now, that estimation can see, you know, Bitcoin absolutely skyrocket and change the direction of my life with just $1,200. Now, these executive orders and the amount of retirement accounts by age, that really changes. So we really see the average. Here we go. Let's look at this great study here by NerdWallet. The average here for a person under 35 is already $49,000. And that's in the United States alone. Look, I get it. Some places around the globe are not the same, but we see under 35. But then as soon as you hit that 35 mark, that turns into $141,000. So that's a dramatic change. That's literally a 3x here. And then the next 10 years, you see it double. And then the returns get a little bit less every single time, right? Every single age demographic, every single decade, you go farther up. You know, you get the initial 3x. And then, hey, it's just diminishing returns every decade, right? You don't quite double as much. So these retirement accounts have a ton of money. And if we just move a slight bit into Bitcoin, well, we're going to start to see those accounts really take off. The $9 trillion asset class in 401k savings is absolutely huge. But the unique aspect of all of this is that a lot of people used MSTR to get exposure into Bitcoin. Now, we've seen the massive amounts of companies start to come on and get Bitcoin on the balance sheet. I mean, if you look at Bitcoin treasuries, which I love to show here all the time, you've seen that, you know, the amount of corporations with Bitcoin on the balance sheet, well, that's 155. We've seen 23 in the past 30 days announce that they're going to put Bitcoin, or they have put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. MSTR is already past 600,000 Bitcoin, and they're going to announce another buy tomorrow, as we've seen Michael Saylor tweet out his buy tracker yet again. So we see these corporations come on and they're starting to put a bunch of Bitcoin on the balance sheet, buying literally every single week. But if this now change where you're allowing Bitcoin to put in 401k accounts, well, how does that affect the MSTR flywheel effect, right? I mean, I love to talk about the Bitcoin flywheel, the MSTR flywheel, the infinite money glitch, whatever the hell you want to call it. Either way, we've seen, and I've gone over this plenty of times, where we see MSTR, it's going to issue debt to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's market cap increases, MSTR's market cap increases. MSTR's market cap and weight in indices increases. Then we start to see MSTR issue more equity to buy Bitcoin, and those market caps increase, weights and indices increase. Well, if all of those things happen, are these pension funds that are now buying into Bitcoin? We have state pension funds. We've got California, Florida, Wisconsin, North Carolina, all holding MSTR. California's teacher retirement accounts, indirect Bitcoin exposure, because they see it's a growing trend. South Korea's National Pension Service. Okay, I get it. It's South Korea. But all of these different states now have access to MSTR through their state-funded retirement accounts. Well, if Donald Trump now unlocks all of the retirement accounts and 401ks towards Bitcoin, well, will they still want to buy MSTR? Because MSTR is essentially just a levered play on Bitcoin at that point. So would MSTR be more of a risk, especially if not as many people can buy, or especially if MSTR cannot issue as much debt in order to buy more Bitcoin? Granted, they're striking while the iron is hot and buying Bitcoin every single Monday, but they aren't really able to do that. And we're seeing the largest sovereign wealth funds buy into Bitcoin. I mean, we've got the Norwegian pension fund buying Bitcoin, or buying MSTR, excuse me. We've got Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, the UAE. All of those guys have exposure to Bitcoin or MSTR at this point. So if they go in and buy Bitcoin instead of MSTR, how will that affect MSTR going forward? Will there be as much of a levered play on Bitcoin? Will the MNAV go down a little bit? It's all questions that we're going to have to see and see how it's going forward, right? And as McLovin is saying, MSTR is not the only game in town. I agree. There's a bunch of these different ones. We've got Ryan saying this is the world's biggest bull run unfolding right before our eyes, and I agree. All of these things, we're starting to see Bitcoin getting scooped up off exchanges at a rapid rate. This is something that, I've been covering for quite some time here. We got a little bit more Bitcoin being put onto exchanges. We even got it up to 2.16, but now we're at 2.15 million Bitcoin on exchanges. And I imagine, even though we saw this little increase, we're going to start to see this number come down as more people are buying Bitcoin and we're seeing the price start to run up. But with this current bull market, right, the hodler's dilemma that Jack Mallers has so famously talked about is absolutely massive, right? I've been looking for ways to avoid selling my Bitcoin because, hey, let's face it, the greatest asset on planet Earth is Bitcoin. So this is why I've partnered with my friends over at Salt Lending. They are the oldest standing lending platform where they will never allow you to sell your Bitcoin. You can just borrow against it, right? So they are giving you guys literally an exclusive offer for all my Green Candle listeners. All you got to do is go to the link in the description, saltlending.com, or right here, saltlending.com/green-candle. Don't forget that little dash in there. But you could be using the greatest collateral on planet Earth in order to do that. And they've got a great aspect, the Salt Shield. So they're going to give you guys some of the best rates that you can get with this Salt Shield offer as well, where there's no liquidation solution. So they'll give you time, right? If Bitcoin is crashing and burning, as we've seen the drawdowns, they'll allow you guys to go and protect yourself so you don't lose your Bitcoin, right? So you could borrow against it. We're going to have it on some great podcasts here going forward as well. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, and they'll offer you rates under 10%. I don't think that there's many places offering rates under 10%, and in 12 months, 70% LTV. I mean, all of these great offers. I know plenty of people that have used Salt. They were in even the largest, they've offered the largest Bitcoin-backed loan in history. And you guys got to do it quickly because I see the way that Bitcoin is going. Soon that 70% LTV, well, if Bitcoin keeps doing what it's doing, well, we'll see Bitcoin skyrocket in flight. We're still sitting at 118K right now. And I'm going to give you guys some free sats here in a minute. So be sure to be sticking around and hitting that subscribe button. because we're talking about retirement. I know it's not super sexy. You're thinking in the long term, but the greatest collateral on planet Earth is Bitcoin, and then potentially the greatest savings technology as well. And if you're saving, well, then you can now retire on Bitcoin. And before, this was not that before. But as Ryan is saying, if you're here, subscribe, share, and like. You're in the right place. Let's learn together. I appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you so much. Oh, and thank you for the super sticker, sir. The $2 super sticker. I appreciate you. Keep on coming here. Wise Lies is saying, no one wants bonds. Bitcoin's time has come. I agree with you. For those of you guys who have been coming around here, you guys know I love to show this, that the Wells Fargo CEO has even come out and said the quiet parts out loud. The rise of Bitcoin companies on the balance sheet, but Strategy is the pioneer in using equity markets to fund Bitcoin treasury companies. And it's got its sights on that $300 trillion global bond market. Wells Fargo believes that the effort to tap into this global bond market might be the most underappreciated story of 2020, Bitcoin story of 2025. So with that being said, I mean, we're seeing absolutely this take off. But the true power of Bitcoin is holding it off an exchange and doing it in self-custody, increasing this number here where we're seeing Bitcoin on exchanges decrease that number, increase the number of more Bitcoin on cold storage. But the exciting part of this is I've partnered with Bitcoin Well. So bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. You could buy Bitcoin today and send it directly into cold storage. And they give you Wishing Well tokens every single time you do it. So if you go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle, sign up, they'll give you 500, which is one spin. You buy Bitcoin, that's 2. You get 2 chances to win up to 1 million sats. And if you hit that subscribe button with that like button right now, every single time we give you guys 478 sats. All you had to do was show up to the Green Candle live stream here. So go ahead and do that because we're seeing the quickest growing asset on planet Earth here. We're seeing Bitcoin absolutely crush, rip and roar. We've really never seen an asset take off like we're seeing right now. I mean, it's truly incredible that we're seeing Bitcoin start to become the fastest growing asset on the world. I mean, it's 16 years old and it's gone from literally nothing to now we're seeing it as one of the largest assets in the world, right? And that's not going to slow down. The growth rate of Bitcoin, no matter how you shape it, is going to keep increasing. I mean, even if you look at the power law for Bitcoin, right? Everybody is saying, hey, you know what? If we're looking at Bitcoin, it follows this power law. But even right now, the upward bounds of this power law, I don't agree. I think all the models are going to be broken. The upward bounds of this is $580,000. So look at these upward bands. It seems like that would be a nice little pump ski we got here. So it's still undervalued according to these models. Look, I think all models are going to be wrong, but eventually, I mean, Bitcoin is just primed to break out. So no matter what, no matter which way you shape it, Bitcoin, the best collateral on planet Earth. Bitcoin, the absolute apex of everything that we're seeing here, is going to keep taking off. So make sure you guys are smoking that like Cheech and Chong, hitting that subscribe button, telling a friend to tell a friend, and I will catch you guys all at the next one.